On April 27, 2023, Iran seized a Marshall Islands flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman, which is considered international waters. The latest seizure comes as part of a series of attacks or seizures on commercial vessels in the sensitive Gulf waters since 2019. The United States Navy identified the seized vessel as the Advantage Suite, a Suezmax crude tanker that had been chartered by oil major Chevron, with its last docking in Kuwait. The tanker's destination was listed as the U.S. Gulf of Mexico port of Houston. The vessel's manager is listed as Genel Denizcilik Nakliyati AS, a Turkey-based company that did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Iran's army claimed that they seized the oil tanker after it collided with an Iranian boat, injuring several crewmen. According to an army statement, 2 members of the boat's crew are missing, and several were injured due to the collision of the ship with the boat. However, the vessel did not show any signs of conducting evasive maneuvers prior to the incident, according to maritime security company Ambri. After sending a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft to monitor the situation, the United States Navy said they had been able to determine that the Iranian Navy conducted the seizure. A fifth of the world's crude oil and oil products pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point between Iran and Oman that the Advantage Suite had passed through. The seizure is considered a threat to maritime security and the global economy, as Iran has unlawfully seized at least 5 commercial vessels in the Middle East in the past 2 years, according to the U.S. Navy. Chevron said they were aware of the situation involving the Advantage Suite and were in contact with the vessel operator with the hope of resolving this situation as soon as possible. The Marshall Islands Maritime Administrator said they were aware of the situation and were in communication with the vessel's owner, operator but declined to comment further. The International Maritime Organization shipping database revealed that the Advantage Suite is owned by a China-registered company called SPDBFL No. 187, Tianjin, Ship Leasing Co. Limited. Monroe Anderson, with maritime security company Dryad, suggested that Iran usually detains vessels for leverage or signaling. The working hypothesis is that it could be an arbitrary detention of a vessel by Iran in response to the U.S. sailing its first unmanned vessel through the region last week or in response to the sanctions against personnel in Iran connected to the IRGC, Elite Revolutionary Guards. Since 2019, there have been a series of attacks on shipping in the strategic Gulf waters at times of tension between the United States and Iran. Iran last November released 2 Greek-flagged tankers it seized in the Gulf in May, in response to the confiscation of oil by the United States from an Iranian-flagged tanker off the Greek coast. Indirect talks between Tehran and Washington to revive Iran's 2015 nuclear pact with world powers have stalled since September over a range of issues, including the Islamic Republic's violent crackdown on popular protests, Tehran's sale of drones to Russia, and acceleration of its nuclear program. The seizure of the Advantage Suite is another reminder of the tensions between Iran and the United States, with both nations having traded barbs over incidents in the sensitive waters of the Gulf in recent years. While the United States Navy has called on Iran to immediately release the tanker, Iranian authorities did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment. Iran's continued harassment of vessels and interference with navigational rights in regional waters is a threat to maritime security and the global economy. The seizure of commercial vessels in the Middle East has resulted in increased shipping costs, insurance premiums, and higher fuel prices. The seizure of the Advantage Suite is the latest in a series of seizures or attacks on commercial vessels in the sensitive waters of the Gulf since 2019, and it comes amid heightened tensions between Iran and the United States. The U.S. has accused Iran of being behind several attacks on shipping in the region, including a series of tanker bombings in 2019 that were blamed on Iranian forces. Iran has denied involvement in those incidents, but it has seized several vessels in the region, including a British-flagged tanker in 2019. The recent seizure of the Advantage suite follows a period of relative calm in the Gulf, which had seen a reduction in the number of attacks on commercial shipping. However, tensions have been rising in recent weeks, with the U.S. Navy sending a fleet of ships to the region to deter Iranian aggression. The U.S. has also been imposing a series of sanctions on Iran in an effort to force the country to abandon its nuclear program and other destabilizing activities in the region. Iran has responded by increasing its nuclear enrichment activities and other provocative actions, including the seizure of the Advantage suite. The incident has drawn condemnation from the international community, with the U.S. calling on Iran to immediately release the tanker and its crew. The U.S. Navy has also called on Iran to cease its continued harassment of vessels and interference with navigational rights in regional waters. The seizure of the tanker has also raised concerns about the security of shipping in the Gulf, which is a critical artery for the global oil trade. About a fifth of the world's crude oil and oil products pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point between Iran and Oman. The seizure of the Advantage suite could lead to a disruption of oil supplies and a rise in oil prices, which would have serious implications for the global economy. It could also lead to an escalation of tensions between Iran and the U.S., which could result in a wider conflict in the region. The incident is also likely to complicate efforts to revive the Iran nuclear deal, which has been stalled since 2018. The U.S. and Iran have been engaged in indirect talks to revive the agreement, but the seizure of the Advantage suite is likely to further strain relations between the two countries. The seizure of the Advantage suite by Iranian forces in the Gulf of Oman is a serious escalation of tensions between Iran and the U.S. and raises concerns about the security of shipping in the region. The incident is likely to have serious implications for the global economy, including a potential disruption of oil supplies and a rise in oil prices. It could also complicate efforts to revive the Iran nuclear deal, which has been stalled since 2018. The international community has called on Iran to immediately release the tanker and its crew, and to cease its continued harassment of vessels and interference with navigational rights in regional waters. Please subscribe for more.